How's it going, everybody? I am the Philosopher, and this is the Console Explosion podcast where we talk about all the nerdy things that are important to us. Oh my god. And we bring on different nerds and members of the community, like our crazy overlord, Jared here, and we talk about things. Today happens to be Comic-Con Day. We're a little bit behind, but there's a lot of stuff that released, and I'm excited. There's a lot of trailers. There's a bunch of other things that we'll talk about. So, yes, the first thing Alex did want to mention is some D&D, Dungeons & Dragons, and we will hear a little bit more about that. Mr. Alex?
All right, so new little thing came out today. There's this online service that's called Roll20. It is a free virtual tabletop service for playing your tabletop role-playing games online. So say, for example, if all the four of us wanted to play a D&D game, but since we're all located in different places, four of us plus Antonio were here to join, we're to play D&D. So we're all different places. We need some way to have a common tabletop to handle the dice rolling and to have so everyone can see the maps and that sort of thing. That's what stuff like Roll20 is for. And it's set up with stuff built in for it for various role-playing game systems and stuff like Pathfinder and Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. The free version also it handles all the general bare-bones stuff like enter in your character sheets. GMs can upload their little tokens for their game or that sort of thing. Common die rolling, drawing maps. Anywho, they Roll20 today announced that they set up a arrangement with Wizards of the Coast where you can buy digital copies of Dungeons & Dragons Adventures through the Roll20 site to use in the software. They're launching with the adventure Lost Mine of Flandelver, which was in the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition starter set. And it is a really good adventure. I own a copy of it. I've read through it. I've kind of done a little trial run through it. It's very well written, very well balanced. It is a great introduction for the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rules. And they're selling it for $20, which, considering the rest of the software itself is free, and you can use it in your tablet and whatever. It's a good deal. $20 is about how much the starter set ran as well. So it's basically for how much the adventure ran in the first place. I think actually the starter set was like 30 or something bucks, but also it came with a set of dice and that sort of stuff too. So
That's pretty cool, actually. So, like I was saying earlier before, is that I played D&D a while ago, but I tend to move around a lot, so it's been very hard for me to organize playing D&D in person. I'd rather play it in person if possible, but because I move around so often, it's pretty much impossible for me to establish like a regular party. So it's died. I haven't played it since 3.5. That's been, I'm sure, years of iterations, and so my knowledge of D&D is very limited. But something like this is pretty cool, because no matter where I am, I can actually play D&D with some friends if I chose to. I can create a party and we can meet up. So it's a lot more accessible. So it's actually really cool that this the service is still free though, right?
Yeah.
Roll20?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
The service is the main service itself for the maps for the general play interface is free. It's where it gets you your drawing surface for drawing maps for the GM, and it doesn't have to be maps if you're doing something that is less map heavy and more just kind of, I guess, more narrative instead of crunchy, like Vampire the Masquerade or Feng Shui or whatever. You can do that through here as well. I bring up Vampire the Masquerade because also there's a Humble Vampire the Masquerade bundle right now, going to the Humble store, where like $15 gets you all of the Vampire the Masquerade revised books. Like $1, like the lowest level just gets you the core book, and then the higher level starts to get you like all the clan books and all this other stuff, and the revised versions of the source books and that sort of thing. So, bunch of neat tabletop role-playing game stuff going on right now.
That's cool. I love how technology continues to... Some people want to say it pushes us apart, but I think it's awesome that this is one new way for us to connect, because that's actually really cool. I have used Roll20 in the past for, like, I've played a one-piece tabletop RPG before, and I think I tried D&D a couple of times, but the D&D has to be kind of skilled, and it wasn't very organized. So I didn't have good experiences with the people, but the program itself the platform itself has been very cool. So I'm actually really excited. I don't know if I'll get the chance to play right away, or do you know when it comes up, or is it already there?
Okay, so Lost Mines of Phandelver is already up right now. There's an additional adventure that's set to come out later in September. Um, I'll see if I can find that. Um, it's just a second. Let me find it here. Storm King's Thunder. That one's scheduled to go out on September 6th. That one's priced at $50, but I believe it's probably gonna be something closer to like the um, Curse of Strahd adventure books or that sort of thing, where it's a rather than being Lost Mines of Phandelver is like your basic like keep on the borderlands, takes you from level 1 to 4 adventure. And Curse of Strahd's like this is your whole campaign. This takes you from first level to 20th level or whatever. It's a whole story. It'll take you months to go through the whole thing kind of setup. And it's worth mentioning that when you're buying these, you're not just buying the text of the adventure. You're getting the maps for it, you're getting tokens for all the different monsters in there, and pre-set up stuff for the stat blocks and that sort of thing. So it'll handle a lot of the math behind the scenes for you. So it streamlines the process and helps you keep things a little more organized.
Cool. So those of us with busy lives can actually give this a go if you're interested in D&D. So I recommend checking it out. Are there any links that we can share with the people so they can check it in the show notes?
Sure.
We can get that later on.
Okay, so here's the link for Lost Mines of Flandelver, and the link for the main Roll20 site as well.
Thank you. And I will post those in the show notes below so you guys can check it out. So as my voice goes through puberty, I've got to talk about a lot of the different trailers that have launched. A lot of people are burnt out on comic book movies, but I'm finding I'm getting more and more excited, to be honest with you. Maybe I'm in the minority here, but I'm excited. I'm really, really excited. I think the first one I'll talk about is probably my least favorite, which still is not saying it's going to be bad. It's just my least favorite, is the Suicide Squad. I don't know if you guys have seen the new trailers that released during Comic-Con, but they're very awesome. Interesting choice in music. It seems like every time they do a new trailer, the music is vastly different. So that's very interesting choice. Little Rick Rouse, the Bouse on there. So don't know how I feel about the music choice, but I thought it was really cool. I do like how Will Smith tends to sneak his I don't know if you keep up with him, but he's very motivational speaker, kind of inspirational personality right now, and he doesn't talk a lot, but when he is on camera, he tends to be a little bit like that, which I tend to like. And so it's kind of cool that there's a couple lines in there where he sneaks in like a kind of a pep talk sort of thing going on. But that's my thoughts. Has anybody else seen those trailers?
I have seen
I'm sorry. What do you mean by pep talk?
I don't remember the exact lines, but he's sitting there, and I don't want to give away too much spoiler stuff, but stuff has happened in the movie. This gives a lot more information about what's going on, but there's a part where something's going on, and I'll leave it vague so you can see the trailer and enjoy it. But he's basically giving them a pep talk, saying we're down and out sort of thing, but we can turn this around and we can kick some ass. I'm very general with it right now, but that's kind of what he's talking about. And then there's another one where he's in the prison cell, I believe, and he's talking about I can't remember the exact lines. I'll have to go back over and watch it again. I didn't jot that down, but he is very motivational in there, and I'll get that for you. But share your thoughts, good sir.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have not seen that trailer yet either. I'm quickly adjusting some stuff on my computer so that my audio output comes out to my headphones. For everything else, comes out to my headphones. But one trailer I did see is the Kong Skull Island trailer, which looks like it's going to be part of the Gods. I don't know if they're going to be making this part of the Godzilla cinematic universe or not, or whatever you want to call it. But it looks really interesting. We've got John Goodman in there, who's looking great. We have Samuel L. Jackson. We have Tom Hiddleston. And I'm interested to see where this movie is going. This looks like the largest King Kong we've seen to date.
You know what? I hate to say it, but for some reason, I don't always. Actually, I haven't watched any of the new ones of those lately. I don't know. I'm excited for you, but I'm just like, oh man, when I hear these movies, I'm like, another one. They're making another one.
Well,
But
they're setting this up as part of the legendary. It sounds like they're setting this up as part of the Legendary Pictures Godzilla universe thing,
mhm.
as opposed to the I don't know, for lack of a better term, the as opposed to it being its own separate thing or a sequel to the uh, movie with
Jack Black.
yeah with Jack Black, directed by Peter Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely its own thing, and I'm interested to see where they go with this because it's a very different take to it.
Well, it takes place almost like in modern day, right?
Uh,
Like Vietnam-esque
yeah,
era.
it looks very 60s.
Compared to 1930s of the original.
Yeah.
But from what I've heard, and there's been inklings, is it's supposed to be the next movie after the Godzilla resurgence in Japan. They're doing another Godzilla movie over here
Yep.
because it did so well. Hang on, relax, relax. And then, from what they were talking about, is, like you said, being in the same genre, depending on the next one, it's supposed to be Godzilla versus King Kong, and then they were talking about pulling in the robots from Pacific Rim.
Okay. I'll say that from what I've heard, the Toho Godzilla movie, the one that's being directed by Hideaki Anno right now, Godzilla Resurgence, that one is definitely its own separate thing from the legendary film stuff, by keeping them in separate continuity.
But they're not ever going to release them against each other. They're always going to be released separately.
Yeah, it'll be released separately.
Always
but
done.
yeah, they're definitely going to be released separately. But the Toho ones are always going to stay in continuity with the other Toho ones. The Legendary Pictures ones, those are more able to cross over with Kong, possibly with Pacific Rim. I haven't heard confirmation, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. It'd be cool if they did. They have to fudge things somewhat because it sounds like when they made Pacific Rim, they didn't have the Godzilla rights, and they were just planning to have that universe be its own thing. Although maybe this would be the Pacific Rim version of Big G.
It would be a really good, a futuristic, because again, Pacific Rim takes place in the future. And
Yeah.
what's Godzilla gets frozen at the end of whatever next sequel of Godzilla, right? Or him and King Kong both get frozen or some bullshit like that, and then they get unfrozen in whatever year after Pacific Rim 2, right? So it's possible, right? Godzilla's come back out of the ice many, many times.
This is true. He's gotten frozen or presumed destroyed by the oxygen destroyer or various other kinds of things. I can see them in Godzilla 2 taking a page from the original Godzilla movie, coming up with some weapon like, okay, this will take care of the kaiju. Godzilla's gonna get caught in the crossfire, but we got to take this thing down, and then Pacific Rim 3 or whatever, the Big G shows up, or we have the offspring of the Big G of Godzilla, and then maybe they take a page from the Heisei Godzilla movies and have the remains of the original Godzilla being used to make Mecha Godzilla. I don't know.
Mecha Godzilla, Jesus Christ, you're going crazy now, man.
See,
But I do want to get back to a point. Someone else actually pointed this out, and it was something I was hoping to mention. So thank you, Rogue, for bringing this up. But something I noticed only one small scene in talking about the Suicide Squad here. There's a scene that I noticed where there's a Batman-like figure jumping out at the camera, essentially. Rogue Dozy, I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry. He brought up the point that Batman was in there, and I did notice this. And I just wanted to share my thought or my theory on that. I think either that is the Joker hallucinating what he sees in this version of the Joker, what he sees as the Batman, or that actually is Batman attacking him, but again, he is so crazy that he sees him as a monster. So Kind of an obscure thing. I'd like to know what you guys thought about that one. But I think one of those two are the most logical explanation. I don't think they're going to put Batman in this movie. They got the whole Justice League thing going on, which we'll talk about
They've actually confirmed that the Batman is in this movie. Ben Affleck has shot scenes on set.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
It is Batman.
So my suspicion is the sequence with Batman is how Harley ends up in custody at the start of the movie. Presumably Joker goes free or gets escapes and shows up again later in the film. And however, it'd be interesting if we do go Joker's eye view with a portion of this and seeing how the Joker perceives the world, if just for a little bit. Not going into origin story stuff like with the Killing Joke, which we can get to later.
Ooh, I just read that.
Possibly. But getting into getting into how the Joker perceives the world, which is an interesting way of which is an interesting take, which I don't think we've seen done very often in the comics or in the animated series or anything like that. We've seen how other people perceive the Joker. We've had various different takes on what the Joker's origin story may or may not have been, but we've never gotten into, okay, how does the Joker actually see the world? Because even when we hear him talk about it, like in The Dark Knight, it's always in a very unreliable fashion. Talk about, I'm just a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't even know what I'd do if I caught one, except if you pay attention to his plans. He is not just a dog chasing cars. He has big, very intricate plans. And he is perfectly willing to lie to anyone and everyone. So...
Do more than that.
So... Just a glimpse, like if this version of the Joker is one who's not just crazy in terms of how he views in terms of his worldview, but his literal perspective on the world, would be an interesting take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. I want to mention real quick that they did mention metahumans in one of the news reels that was going on in the background. So I am wondering if the Flash will make a point, like if they'll bring him up at all, because they know of metahumans, and I'm not saying that only the Flash uses that term, but that means that there's a bunch of other metahumans running around. This is very normal. Most of these characters probably have already had at least one engagement with Batman. So it's going to be very interesting to see the villain, like DC movie. And they're doing it so early where we haven't seen this sort of thing from Marvel yet. If they're going to, unless you want to count like the Guardians of the Galaxy, that's a stretch. I think.
Not really. I'm definitely interested to see where they go with this because I like kind of the take they're doing with this. It's dark, but it's not the kind of dark that, like, say, Batman v Superman was. And as far as the metahuman things goes, that has for the longest time in the DC comics their buzzword term for powered individuals instead of mutants or inhumans or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I am definitely interested to see where they go with this, and if this does well, I'm interested to see how or in what way Marvel responds, because Marvel has their own version of this team, which actually came out after the Suicide Squad was invented in comics, with the Thunderbolts. And the neat thing with the Thunderbolts is we've actually in the films introduced already, in the Marvel films, one of the founders of the Thunderbolts, Helmut Zemo. In the comics, he was the founder of the Thunderbolts when they were originally the Masters of Evil, but posing as a superhero team, which later got turned into a Black Ops work release program for supervillains. And I'd be interested to see if they do that, particularly since they've got Zemo in the custody of Thunderbolt Ross, so they could even just use the name without having to do anything to explain it. Oh, they're the Thunderbolts because they're Thunderbolt Ross's team.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good point. And there's been some theories bouncing around about that, so it's not too unlikely that this might happen in the future. They've got a lot going on. They've already dropped a lot. So one of the biggest, so many Marvel things that I'm excited for, I'll get to that in a second, because you did make a good point of the Killing Joke, which is worth mentioning in tandem of the Joker that we just talked about, because that is the closest thing to getting inside a Joker's head that I know of. I'm not a huge Joker fan, so don't murder me if there's something better out there. But I literally read that like 2 days ago, and then I know they also released like a one-day event where they showed the animated version of it, which my friends have loved it. I haven't heard much outside of that, but that's really cool. But what did you have to say about The Killing Joke?
So, Killing Joke, the film adaptation has kind of gotten some controversy behind it. The original story has some problems because it's basically, it has the Joker paralyzing, and it is implied that he sexually assaults Barbara Gordon, but it's not explicit. That Barbara Gordon, in order to attempt to traumatize Commissioner Gordon and make him turn evil, or alternatively cause Batman to turn evil, snap, and finally kill the Joker because of how far over the line the Joker's gone. And the film version tries to expand on the narrative to give Barbara Gordon more screen time, which on the one hand is a good thing. But it does so in a fashion where she's having an affair with Batman, which includes a sex scene. It's mostly a pan-up sex scene, but it's still clearly meant to be a sex scene. And the response has been kind of iffy in terms of the age relationship between Batman and Barbara Gordon. They've never really had a relationship in the comics before. Anyway, if anything, it's Barbara Gordon and Dick Grayson. But and I've been thinking about this because I've read The Killing Joke a while back. It's a very good comic. It definitely has its flaws, but it's one of my more favorite pieces of Alan Moore work pre-Watchmen. And I think what I like about what would have made this work if they were going to expand the role of Barbara Gordon in this would have been to add some sort of epilogue to set up, because where Barbara Gordon goes after her paralysis is the way it's set up in the comics is they knew kind of in advance the story was coming and that she was going to be paralyzed, and so the writer who was writing the Batgirl at the time had her hang up the cowl.
Mm-hmm.
The paralysis happened, and then she decided, rather than letting my disability take over my life, I'm going to reinvent myself, and this is how she became Oracle. And what I would have liked, and lots of other people mentioned would have liked, is instead of sticking a bunch of stuff at the beginning with adding in the Batman-Batgirl relationship, which instead makes the narrative kind of more about Batman than either Batgirl or Commissioner Gordon, then having more screen time for Batgirl before and after, where, okay, I don't know if I want to be Batgirl anymore, I'm hanging up the tights, I get paralyzed, I'm going to not let my disability define myself and become Oracle, and that would work and also tie in nicely with the one bad day thing with the Joker's plan, where with his one bad day, he fails to break Batman, he fails to break Commissioner Gordon, and he fails to break Barbara Gordon. Where it's the whole gist of the conclusion of the story is it's the ultimate repudiation of the Joker's thesis that that one bad day can turn any person into a monster like me, and he does his darndest with three of his arch nemeses, with his arch nemesis in law enforcement, with Batman, and with part of Batman's support Batman's friends, the Bat family, with Barbara Gordon, though he doesn't know at the time that Barbara Gordon is part of the Bat family. And I really would have liked if they'd taken that next step and gone, okay, Batgirl's not going to let this Barbara Gordon's not going to let this one bad day destroy her, and she's going to make herself into something else that's still strong and still able to fight back against situations like this and help other people and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree on that theme. I kind of like the theme of that, how basically Joker's philosophy is that one bad day is all it takes to break someone. But for me, what I got out of the comic was that it may take one bad day, but that's a choice that we all make. He chose to, and a lot of bad stuff happened to him. I won't spoil it for you, but a lot of bad stuff happened to the Joker in this version of the comic, and he chose to let these series of events define the rest of his life. But you get three perfect examples of people who don't let that one bad day define the rest of their lives, despite how those events have affected them permanently. So I got a lot out of that. But speaking of Batman, we might as well talk about the Justice League trailer that they dropped on us, and I'm not a big DC fan. I just want to say that I'm not a huge DC fan, which is probably why I'm not super excited about the Suicide Squad, even though it still looks great. But Injustice, I want to go see, not as a DC fan, but just not as a DC fan, but just as a person who wants to see this movie that looks very fantastic. I do like the Flash, so I think I'm kind of biased in that sense. He was probably my favorite part of that trailer, but there was a whole bunch of good stuff in there. I'm super excited. They have all the characters in there. They have Cyborg. They show his origins, which is really cool. He looks pretty cool in it, in my opinion. He doesn't look like the Teen Titans version. I think he looks more like the older style, but with the new CG, it looks like a mixture of old school and new school. I'm not sure. I like how they did Aquaman. He looks very awesome. You don't see a lot from Aquaman. You see the other version of him.
He looks homeless.
I mean, kind of. He's gone through after the Time and Tide, the reintroduction of the character in after Crisis, the first Crisis on Infinite, the on Infinite Earths Crisis as opposed to the other crises, but the introduction of the character after that, it kind of works, although with a bit of, because you have Khal Drogo / Conan playing Aquaman, you do get the sense of this is Aquaman, this is King Conan Aquaman to a certain extent, and I like kind of that take on him. And it's also a take on the character, which you kind of have to do, because otherwise they do kind of make this quip in the trailer. Otherwise you have the "so you talk to fish" super problem when people forget he doesn't just talk to fish. He also has super strength. He also has a degree of super speed. So he's.
I do want to add real quick. The other part of that joke is that he actually can't communicate with fish. He can just influence them telepathically.
Yeah.
So it's like Batman's lack of knowledge is. There's a lot of different ways you could take that, but yeah, it's kind of like this ongoing joke that he talks to animals when it's not really that. It's a nerd thing, but I think that's really interesting as well.
I just think it's going to be stupid when they're like, all right, let's go fight some animals, and he's like, all right, come on, manatees, let's go.
Except he's got, well, aside from the fact he has super strength and super speed equal to Wonder Woman's, it's also
he's as strong as a chick.
Oh my God, Jack. What is wrong with you?
Also, it's like, it's not just, I'm summoning, I'm calling manatee. I'm not calling a manatee. I'm not going to impale you with a narwhal. It's like, hey, Mega Shark's gonna bite you in half now.
Giant squid. Have you not seen the Injustice gameplay of Aquaman? He's got giant Mega Sharks, man.
Not even just Injustice. Like, they bring this up in Justice League Unlimited. It's like Justice League Unlimited when they reintroduce Aquaman in there.
And they also brought it up in Robot Chicken when he's like, I got a school of fish. Now you're mad. Here's some starfish. Come a little closer.
No, it's like in Justice League Unlimited. When he does command sea life, it's not like he's summoning like, I've got starfish. I've got he summons the badass sea life. He summons great white sharks.
You gotta ignore Jared. He's trolling.
I know.
Hard.
I know, but it's the kind of thing that's brought up enough anyway that it's important enough kind of to mention, like, hey, Aquaman's the butt of a lot of jokes.
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions about that character. It's very true.
So here's a question. So does Aquaman control just saltwater animals, or does he do freshwater animals too?
He can do any aquatic life. So if you, for example, if they're in the Amazon River or whatever, then freaking then you can bust out a whole bunch of piranha to take somebody down.
So can he control a platypus? Is that considered a water animal?
I hate you so much, Jared. That's a good question, though. I will admit that's actually a good question, even though.
I mean, being it's amphibious, that is actually something good question. I suspect Grant Morrison has in fact already answered it at some point, because Morrison answers all of these questions at some point or another.
We got to find that. We need to find that. That's something that you need to research. I'm going to leave it to you. I want next podcast. You let me know if Aquaman controls platypuses or not.
Yeah, it's probably actually going to be answered in like Grant Morrison's run on Animal Man, because he gets involved with the red and the green, which are two concepts from Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run, which, by the way, if you've never read Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run, you really need to read Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run. It is amazing on so many ways. But it gets the idea of the red and the green. The green is a sort of unified consciousness of all plant life on the planet Earth, and the red, which Animal Man is tapped into, relates to like a group consciousness of all animal life on Earth. And I think that it gets into somehow Aquaman ties into that on the Animal Man run. So I need to read that. I need to reread that.
I have one more question.
Yes, he will slap you with his fin.
What do you call a group of... What are the animals you're talking about?
Platypus?
Platypus. What do you call a group of platypuses? Is it platypuses or platypussies?
Oh my god. It's the second one. So, I've got a lot of Marvel stuff to talk about, Jared. You can't be distracting me with these weird questions.
But I want to throw something in just about the Suicide Squad and everything.
Yeah.
Because they were talking about, if the movie does good, they're talking about doing a Sirens of Gotham, which is Catwoman, Poison Ivy, and Harley Quinn, and something with that. And I think that's amazing if they do that.
That would be really neat to do. Because like Harley and Ivy have had really the team up books that have been done with those two characters have generally been very well done. Like going all the way back to when they did the episode, not just like the comic books, but like when they did the episode of Batman the Animated Series, when they had Harley and Ivy team up.
Yep.
And so,
I mean, the books of the Sirens of Gotham City are amazing. Like, if you get to read them, it's with the three of them. It revolves around them as crime fighters and becoming detectives, trying to renew themselves.
What?
Really good read. It's a really good read if anybody gets a chance to do it. So if they do a movie of it, and Margot, who plays Harley Quinn, said she'll do it. So, awesome.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I would want to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Woman of DC and how they're being shown in the movies, the Wonder Woman trailer looks really interesting.
Yes, that is very true. That is one of the other ones that I wanted to get to. It's I don't know what to say to that, because I mean, one, she was already in the Justice League, but her trailer alone would look really good. It's really interesting. If you don't know, short version, she's basically on a little isolated area of all female women, but like all Amazons essentially. So they're like these superpowered people who are born from the gods, essentially, pretty much. And she is usually the daughter of a queen, so she's Princess Diana, and she gets to Earth and has an alias, and stuff happens, and she beats people up and whatnot. And
Diana of Themyscira. The island location is generally shuffled around depending on the timeline and that sort of thing. Usually, like sometimes it's like still in the middle of the Atlantic. In this one, it looks like they're actually putting it straight up in the Mediterranean, because this movie, unlike all of the other previous historical versions of Wonder Woman, where they've had her in like Golden Age or whatever, has her in World War I. Which is a very different take on the character. It's interesting because Wonder Woman's one of the characters where, because she's a magical being, because her powers come from magic, they can do without having to do the Superman style, not Superman, the Captain America style stasis. They can do a continuity of this same person active from World War II to the present day, and going even further back to World War I is definitely an interesting take. It also differentiates them really well from Captain America, because World War One as a war is much less cut and dried than World War Two is. I mean, we can all agree that Nazis are bad. Nazis are bad and eminently punchable. But we get into the much more shades of gray of World War Two, World War One, and the tactics of the war, and that sort of thing, and how just much more messy the war was in so many different respects. It definitely changes things up a bunch, not just in terms of how the war was fought, but like the motivations for how the war started. If none of you have seen the extra credits, extra history miniseries they did for how World War One started, it is absolutely worth watching. Also, I don't know if it's still on Hulu, if you're watching this in the US, Season 4 of Blackadder Goes Forth, which is set during World War One. It definitely takes the much less glamorous take of World War One and focuses much more on the war as a tragic comedy of errors. And so it's not going to necessarily set up any of the action stuff that we're going to be seeing in Wonder Woman, but it gives you, okay, this is kind of what the war was. And idea of, okay, so we're dropping Wonder Woman into a much more shades of gray situation, which makes sense with how the DC Cinematic Universe is set up, where it's a much more shades of gray world. So it's thematically, for what the universe they're building, this war might actually be a better fit for what they're aiming for than dropping her in the middle of World War II and saying, go punch Nazis. We can all cheer for punching Nazis.
Sounds good to me. Now we have to hop into as much Marvel as we can shove into this time as possible. Netflix alone.
Oh yeah, we got
Netflix.
Iron Fist with some Iron Fist. We got Luke Cage with some badass ODB in the trailer.
Mm-hmm. We've got another Daredevil. We have the supposed confirmation of the Punisher, and then we also have the Defenders, which is pretty much their version of the Avengers. It's like a lower level version of the Avengers, essentially. And so,
with Stick being the unifying factor, it sounds like, and he's much less cynical, much more cynical, and less actively trying to motivate them than Nick Fury was.
Yeah, so that's going to be a very, very interesting dynamic. I'm actually very excited. We saw some hints at Elektra. We know there's a bunch of other people going to be in it. David Tennant, Jessica Jones is also going to be in it. David Tennant.
Did they kill him?
You know what? I actually haven't watched the series. I haven't watched the series. I haven't finished it. I have watched a couple episodes, but I haven't finished it.
I believe the Purple Man dies at the end of Jessica Jones.
What is this? Five Nights at Freddy's?
Oh,
but no. Yeah. I think he does, because I heard that he wasn't supposed to be in season 2. But obviously maybe he regenerated. I don't know. He has like 3 hearts. I'm not sure what's going on.
Maybe flashback kind of thing.
I hope not. But either way, he's in it, so that's a win for us in the nerd kingdom.
Maybe the Hand steals his body. Much like they took Elektra's body, and they're resurrecting a bunch of dead bad guys to bring under their control to bring back and just take on the Defenders.
Yeah, that actually does sound very feasible. Yeah, he regenerated, exactly.
Wouldn't that mean that it'd be Matt Smith playing him?
He has 2 hearts. Yep. But yeah, so Defenders alone is going to be awesome. Daredevil, I really, really enjoyed that. Like, Netflix is just doing Netflix alone. Like, just the concept of what Netflix has going on here is just mind-bogglingly amazing to me. Because outside of Marvel, they still have a bunch of great series, and they have anime. They're just kicking ass. But tag teaming with Marvel, Iron Fist is. I'm excited for Iron Fist. I think he's a really cool character. I was actually introduced to this character because of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, or Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. So a lot of these characters I learned about through video games, because a lot of the Marvel movies and adaptations that I'm going to be talking about tonight, I actually don't know too much about the comics. It's either cartoon or it's going to be video game related for me. So we're finally getting out of the realm of characters that I know somewhat well, like Doctor Strange. I've never read one of his comics, but have read cartoons and seen him in video games. So very, very excited.
I will recommend to people who are in the audience getting a subscription to Marvel Digital Unlimited, because it's got basically hot and cold running Marvel, almost a complete, there are gaps, but almost a complete run of basically everything Marvel from like 1945 to like 6 months ago, 3 to 6 months ago. So you can go back and read Jack Kirby's run on Doctor Strange, which is great because it's Kirby at his most psychedelic. And if you've seen Jack Kirby's art before, you can know he can get really psychedelic. So it's definitely worth reading. And the trailer for Doctor Strange really gets into kind of, I guess, what we do. The closest we get to live action psychedelia stuff, because they're not going to be busting out the paint tank for backdrops nowadays for their astral plane kind of stuff.
Ooh, the astral plane. Yes.
Don't eat the brown acid.
Oh. Okay. Okay. But yeah, speaking of astral planes and Doctor Strange, the second trailer actually looked very awesome. Looked very Inception-y, actually. I love Benedict Cumberbatch. I don't know if you don't. Obviously, you must be some sort of like Nazi or something. I don't know, something crazy. Just kidding. But yeah, he looks like he should be like. I like Doctor Strange. I don't know much about him, but he's such a cool character. I watched the animated film when it was on Netflix. They probably took it down by now. He was in a few different games, also Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Marvel Ultimate Alliance, either 1 or 2. Very cool character, Sorcerer Supreme. I've turned into Sean Connery. But yeah, the Sorcerer Supreme, he is such a cool character. You see him don the cape and everything. You see a little bit more of him being Doctor Strange and his origins and the CGI that they're going to be using for the magic. And this is actually the first time, besides Thor, where they introduce magic to the Marvel Universe, unless you want to count Scarlet Witch, which is kind of a weird thing right there.
I'm interested to see where they go with this as far as with the rest of the cinematic universes. If when we have Doctor Strange interacting with the Avengers and Scarlet Witch saying, yeah, what you're doing isn't just like your superpower isn't you can manipulate reality. It's your superpower lets you tap into magic in a more primal way than it takes for most normal people to do through study. You are doing magic. Interesting to see how they do with that. They're even getting into some of the magic stuff with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they have confirmed Ghost Rider is going to be in the upcoming season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh,
It's not Johnny Blaze. It's the more recent version of Ghost Rider, which is going to be interesting. This version of Ghost Rider, I don't know how I think about this, but they're having him. He doesn't ride a motorcycle. He's got a Dodge Charger instead. A satanic Dodge Charger. I mean, which still certainly looks cool, but I mean, the motorcycle, man.
I'm trying not to judge because it seems unnecessary for him to have it. It doesn't make sense functionality-wise for me. I like Dodge Chargers. They're cool. I think it's going to look badass. I just don't see how you can hop off on a car. Maybe you can just like teleport out of it and it turns into like a suitcase or something or a whip. I don't know, but that seems like it doesn't.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it has this case like he just summons it and it emerges from hell or whatever when he calls for it, which would still also be cool. Maybe they're trying to go for something slightly more low key, and it's like okay from what they've got for their television budget or whatever, they can't do the full like Nick Cage and the Lionsgate movies setup for the Ghost Rider with the motorcycle and everything else. In that setup would be too expensive, but they could get away with the Charger.
Yeah, that's possibly true. Uh, I don't know. I actually didn't know about the Agents of Shield part, so I am one of the few people that watch this show. I like Marvel, so I like hearing about the little Easter eggs and hearing about all this craziness that's going on in the Inhumans and all this stuff. It's to me, I find it really cool. I don't know. It just kept getting cooler and cooler with each season and more mutanty. I can't think of the word, but more superhero-y, I suppose. Rather than like at first it starts off as an agent thing, and then it turns more into a superpower sort of thing, and all that things that lie between. It kind of has an X-Men Magneto vibe to it. There's a character that kind of has that vibe. It's not the same morals or anything like that, but just that sort of vibe to me. Kind of the X-Men Brotherhood sort of situation.
They've also confirmed they have the rights to use the main to use in Agents of Shield, the main Inhumans, like Black Bolt, like Medusa. So we'll see. So maybe we'll get to see the MCU version of Black Bolt a little early on Agents of Shield. That'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I don't know how they would do his character because for those who don't know, his voice basically just blows shit up. So from what I understand, this could be an exaggeration or different adaptations, but his whisper could destroy the Earth. I think that's the case.
That is something of exaggeration. If he were to shout, he didn't actually try to shout, he'd destroy the Earth.
Okay.
But usually whenever he uses his power in talking, he talking in a very quiet whisper where there's a scene where he's fighting. There's a story where he's fighting the Incredible Hulk, and I think this is actually right at the start of World War Hulk, and the Hulk's basically I'm not gonna let you you're not gonna stop. I feel it was challenging the Hulk's demanding that Black Bolt let him through, and Black Bolt's no, and then just boom knocks Hulk for miles. Doesn't stop him. The Hulk. I mean, it's the Hulk. Punching him, hitting him just makes him madder. But
I think he came back and yelled in his face and knocked him out or something.
No, not this one because I believe they have. This is very early on in World War Hulk, so I think Hulk breaks his jaw or something like that, so he can't speak anymore, and then he proceeds on to Earth to settle his business with the rest of the Avengers and Illuminati for sending him off to the Planet Hulk planet.
I am Agamotto. But yeah, speaking of which, there was a connection that they actually made. I can't think of what it was. There was something that they released about Hulk.
Oh yes,
I didn't get a chance to look at it.
They had mock-ups of some of the costumes from Thor at the Marvel booth. And they had Gladiator Hulk outfit, and that was part of the thing with Planet Hulk. Was for the first half of the story, Hulk's basically a gladiator in slave pit in a slave pit, and he breaks out. And that's when he starts the rebellion in Planet Hulk. And I'm presuming what they might do here is have a situation where maybe it's still Hulk in the slave pits, but Thor helps him break out and as some part of the story, and that's when the Hulk and Thor team up. That's my guess.
All right. Anything Hulk, I'm down with. He's one of my favorite Marvel characters right now. Planet Hulk. If you haven't read Planet Hulk, fix that. One of my favorite comics of all time. It was. If you like Spartacus and you like the Hulk, you'll like it. If you've already read it, that'll make sense to you. If you haven't, it won't. So there's that. But yeah, there's been tons. Iron Fist is another one where they're going to have magic in that, of course, with chi and such. But they're also going to have Luke Cage, which we don't know much about him. I believe he also goes by Power Man, but he's not going to in this. That's his older name. There's just so much stuff going on that I don't know where to stop. But the last thing that at least I want to mention tonight is that Flash Season 3. There was already leaked footage, I think, before Comic-Con, but they already confirmed it. They had Barry Allen and other actors doing little small skits and stuff like that.
With Flashpoint.
Yeah, but they're going to have Wally West as Kid Flash. It looks like he have his outfit, and then some other speedster who there's only theories, so I'm not even going to try to figure out who it is right now. No one knows who it is. So that I loved season 1 and 2 of The Flash. Great series. If you haven't seen it, if you like The Flash, I think it's really good, but you have to look at it as an alternate reality sort of show. You can't compare it to the comic books because they make large deviations and they do it on purpose. So you have to see it as a reboot or something like that, and you'll enjoy it a lot more, at least in my opinion.
Yep, and they get the alternate universe stuff in their other in the third series in the in the DC television universe, Legend of Tomorrow, which I saw the trailer for that, and it looks like we're having the DC TV universe version of the Legion of Doom on there, like Damien Dark and Malcolm Merlyn and a couple other people. So,
Lex Luthor.
well, they don't have the rights for Lex Luthor for the TV universe yet. We got Superman, who'll be showing up in Supergirl, which is now on the CW, but we don't have a trailer for that yet. So aside from the superhero stuff, did anyone watch the trailer for the American Gods?
Nay.
Okay, so American Gods started out as a novel by Neil Gaiman, which is being turned into a television series by Starz. And it's really good. The premise of it is it's kind of urban fantasy. Post a link in the chat. And it has to do with like these various gods from other, really is that as other cultures and societies came to America, they brought their gods with them, and their gods are here among us and walking around among us. In addition to sort of new gods that have come up based on things in American culture and what we value, and what happens when they come into conflict with each other. And our audience perspective character is a guy named Shadow, who appears to be one of these gods. Who is, though he may not know it, and he's being apprenticed by a guy named Mr. Wednesday. And if you know where Wednesday takes its name, then you have a pretty good guess of who he is. Then this guy is played by Ian McShane, who you may recognize from Deadwood and an old BBC television series called Lovejoy. And those are wondering where Wednesday take its name. It's from a certain Norse god with one eye.
Oh yeah, Odin.
Yep, or Woden, as yep.
Odin's Day.
Yep.
Yep. So that'll be interesting. I do like stuff like that. I don't get a chance to see too many things like that. Like I think it was Gods of Egypt was one that came out that sadly I don't think that one got received too well for whatever reason.
Well, it had some problems with crappy writing, and the writing was crappy. The director decided to throw a whole bunch of hissy fits about, oh, critics don't understand my genius. Basically, because the director is coasting on the success of it's directed by the guy who did Dark City, and he's kind of been coasting on the success of that and The Crow. Let's see what else there. The other trailer that is more of a teaser thing was for Star Trek Discovery, where we get to see the ship from that. Link is in our chat. You want to post that to the other chat?
Oh yeah.
So, what's kind of neat about this is the ship design here. It's very different. It's actually based off a rejected design for Star Trek: The Motion Picture for the refit Enterprise. It was done by Ralph McQuarrie, the guy who did all the concept art for Star Wars. If you ever looked at any concept art for the original Star Wars trilogy, you've seen his stuff. And so the ship design here is basically taken directly from that.
Okay.
You can find a link of a good Ralph McQuarrie image gallery.
Yeah, there's been a lot of good stuff at Comic-Con. There's tons of stuff we probably didn't go over. If we did miss the stuff, let us know in the comments down below as well. But next year, or the one in Chicago, want to try to go to one of these things. We've talked about this before with different kinds of conventions, like Fighting Game, I believe we talked about with Combo Breaker and other ones in the past. But I do want to at least say that if you guys ever do have the opportunity to go to events like this and you are a huge fan of the works, go there and check it out, especially if you're someone who wants to participate in that sort of thing, whether you want to be an artist or make clothes or makeup or do anything, like act, whatever. Go check it out and connect with other people that are passionate about it. You know, you learn a lot, you network, and you make new opportunities. There are tons of reasons why you should go, but not many good ones why you shouldn't if you can reasonably afford it and you have the time and you're not going to lose your job or anything. It's worth it. You know, these small, you know, seemingly small events to other people, large to people like us that are passionate about it. It's definitely worth the time to go to. I just wanted to emphasize how impactful these things can be when you actually go to them and enjoy it with other people who are passionate about it.
Yep, and some of these events, large events, are actually large. Like San Diego Comic-Con, very big. It takes over a not insignificant chunk of San Francisco. Gen Con, Indianapolis. They've outgrown the convention space in Indianapolis, and they're actually moving over to the expanding to the adjoining stadium, where on the stadium floor they're going to be having a whole bunch of tabletop role-playing tables set up in the stadium where the Pacers play. So that's really cool. I believe it's the stadium that the Pacers are in. So I remember hearing that hey, that's kind of neat. No, it's not the D&D events. So they have some of that stuff over there. They're doing the True Dungeon event in there, which is cool. It's a big physical kind of. It's not quite LARPing, but they build a dungeon. You have a little character sheet, and you go through it, and you try to see how far you can get through the dungeon and solving puzzles and that sort of thing. It's a combination of a room escape plus some role-playing elements and little mock combat and that sort of thing. I've always wanted to do one of those. And they sound like they're doing it on an even bigger scale this time because they've got the space to do something really impressive. So I'm just interested in hearing how that turns out.
Cool. All right. And so we will end it right here. If there's anything that you felt like we should have talked about, let us know down below, of course. But I'm going to go and see where our friend Alex over here can be found and what he does.
All right. So I can be found at, make sure I've got it on my hand, youtube.com/user/count0or. That is my YouTube channel. And let's see here. My most recent video I've done is I have a vlog style review of Hatsune Miku Project Mirai DX for the Nintendo 3DS. I have to do a vlog style review because I have no way to actually capture video from the 3DS at the moment. If you want, I have a link to my Patreon page on there as well, so if you want to back my Patreon, then hey, maybe I'll be able to eventually capture gameplay footage, get a modded 3DS so I could capture gameplay footage. Other than that, I've got my Let's Play of Mass Effect 3 that's currently ongoing, and next week I have a review of the audiobook version of Legends of Drizzt, the Collected Stories, which a couple years ago was released on Audible for free, and now you have to kind of pay some money for it. But it's going to be an interesting review, and I talk about a bunch of neat stuff.
Awesome. And Jared, do you have anything to add on to it?
Nope, I'm good. Just check the Console Xplosion.
Boom. All right. And like you said, consoleexplosion.com. My name is Philosopher. You can find me on Facebook.com/Philosopher, YouTube.com/ThePhilosopher, Twitter @ThePhilosopher if you want to message me personally. As always, you can find our content on the consoleexplosion.com. If you want to catch us when we do the podcast live, we do it on Thursdays at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. You can hop in and join us and share your topics as we talk about it live. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, we are doing a small little giveaway as a thank you for watching our show. All you have to do is press the like button, share the video with your friends, and then be subscribed to us, and we'll give this to you. We'll send you a message personally and get this sent up to you. It's made from one of the person who runs the House at M, which is at FGC. He makes different kinds of Preller art, and he wanted to make it today but could not, and so he left this as a gift for not being able to make it. So thank you to him. And